What's up, guys? We're gonna brobeatz. Today I'm going to show you guys an easier way to come up with melodies. With that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the question of the day, which is, if you had $1 billion, would you stop making music? Leave your answer down in the comment section down below. Let's hop into the video. So first things first, we just need a scale to work with, just so it's easier for you to see what's going on. So let's do a minor. I think we just did a major in the last video. It's the plugin that I'm using, just a custom preset. So let's go in here, and I just want to start with the setup here. So every melody is pretty much a chord, whether it looks like it or not. It's most likely a chord that's just broken up. So what we can do is just put down a 7th chord from this A sharp. So we're just gonna go up like this, and then what you can do is, if you, let's say you don't want to use A sharp, if you don't want to like use a generic kind of pattern for your bass line, you could take this same note and copy it. So in order to make a chord, you just, with these notes in the background, you just skip area of the note, right? So you would go backwards to find a bass line in this case. So we could go backwards and we have this F sharp, and that's why I said most things are just, it's just a chord, because if you try to get this F sharp up here, it doesn't match, right? If you try to use the same formula, right? But every note goes with every note. It just depends on the context. So we could start here, and let's go ahead and just make a bass line with this. So pretty much we're just gonna build up into this. So I'm gonna just make this super generic, just straight up like this, and we could just use these notes we already have. And let's take this note too, and we're just gonna pull these down like this. And I'm just showing you this so that you know how to make a bass line, even if you don't know music theory like that. Quantize it. That's our bass line. All right, so I'm gonna cut it here, and you can go ahead and fill all the other sections in. So now we're on to part 2, where we kind of fill in the middle part, and this is where we'll kind of get that playing sound from. So if that last part was a little bit difficult, if you're like, oh, that's a lot of steps, I've never seen this before, I never did this before, just think of the bass line as a top melody, because that's all it is. Your bass line is just a melody. I know people, the perception of a bass line is a little different. Like, it's not a, instrument, or some people think of like the 808, or like bass is not an instrument or something like that, but it's a melody. That's all it is. Just think of it as a melody, make it sound good, and then you build the chords on top, just like this. And this is, I'm just showing you this to prove a point. It's all the same, okay? So let's go ahead and get into this mid section. So you have to remember how we got to this note, because if you forget, it'll change the way that you want this to sound. So what we're gonna do is just rebuild our original chord, which is our A sharp, our minor 7th, right? Simple. So what we're gonna do from here is, matter of fact, let's just do this by ear, because there's some tricks I could show you, but I just want to make this real simple. We're gonna delete all this and use this as our middle section. And I'm gonna shrink this down so we can see everything, just like that. And you just want to kind of play this. Now keep this as simple as possible, because the more you complicate this, the harder it's going to be to make a melody later. So we're gonna just pull this out. Oops. And you just want to create a little melody, and it could just repeat. It could be something like this. I want mine to be a little bit more sad, so I'm gonna do something like this, and I just want it to repeat like so. And then we're just gonna do this, and then you can just literally repeat this over the whole part. And I'm gonna just shrink this down so it, let's go ahead and pull this down an octave so we have more space. It's already sounding nice. Now I'm not going to be doing velocity stuff, because that could take a long time, because pretty much what you do, you just go through and just kind of fix it manually, or at least that's what I would do. But one rule to follow is I just would follow the flow of the notes. So if this one, so you see how this one goes down, I would pull this one down like so, right? And this one is lower, so I would just make it a little bit lower. And it kind of follows the flow. That's just a rule of thumb. But like I said, I want to keep this real simple. So let's go ahead and move on to the next section. Now we're gonna go ahead and add the linger notes. So you're probably like, what is a linger note? Especially if you're new to the channel. It is just a note that hangs over the entire chord, right? Now it could be chopped up, it could be more complex, but usually it's just something like this, right? It'll just be something like this. That's all it is. So it's pretty much like your bass line, but just pulled up an octave, right, or two. So we're just gonna throw these in. I'm gonna change the color. And then one way to get there, if you don't know how to choose a note, maybe you're like, I don't know any ideas in my head, and I don't know what to pick. You can just recreate your old chord like this and just pick a note from here. So what I would pick is the A sharp, because if you look, it's far away enough that you can add other notes in between if you wanted to. So I'm gonna use this. It's as simple as this, right? And if you wanted to, you could pull up this bass note too to kind of cheat. And you could pull this up too, or you can pull the C sharp up. It all works. If it works down here, it will work up here. That's just kind of a rule of thumb that you can use. I think I'm gonna make mine more simple. I'm gonna turn the velocity on these down a bit, just so it's a little bit softer. So those are the linger notes. So lastly, we're gonna go ahead and throw in our top melody to finish this off. Now let's go ahead and get started with our top melody. So you could just use your ear for this 100%, but for those who maybe struggle with that, you could just use the original chord. So remember, it's just all the same process. You could just rebuild your original chord. So we would have our A sharp minor 7th. We would end at the G sharp. You pull it up twice. You could change the color so we can know that's top melody. Or you could just take the linger notes that you have and you can build a chord from there to find some notes to use, which in our case, it circles back to the G sharp. And then from here, you just kind of build your melody. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is within these sections, so every 4 bars, and I'll just copy this over just so we have 2 sections. You want to have the same, like a melody rhythm, right? So you want to have like the same type of rhythm pattern. Now, I don't want beginners watching this to take this too literally to the point where you're like, okay, my melody has to literally be the exact same like this. So this will be an example of like a rhythm pattern, right? It just follows the same little kind of rhythm. Right, so this is like the super simple form. So I'm gonna show you real time on how to do this so that it's not so repetitive. And it could be something as simple as using like the same element. So let's take this and let's maybe play around with some of the, I'm gonna try to make this a little bit larger. There we go. And then we can circle back to this. I'm gonna take this note. You can see here what I'm doing is for my like rhythm, I'm using kind of like these thirds here to kind of transition, right? So it doesn't need to be as simple as I showed you before. It could just be something that simple. All right, and if you notice in the beginning, I kind of have a consistent note playing, right? So this is just one way you can use it, because I don't want people getting caught in this like robotic system where they're like, oh, I have to just make melodies like this, which you can do, and it does sound good. And matter of fact, we'll do it on the second section, just to prove to you that it can still work. But let's finish this. I'm gonna shorten some of these up a bit. And let's play around with some of this. Shift D that, and I'm gonna just make a dyad right here, just a chord with only 2 notes. Okay, so now that's our section 1 here. Okay, then over here, this will be a lot quicker. I'm gonna just do something simple, so we can make it real simple. So one other like rhythm we can do, because maybe that was too complex for some people. Maybe you're new to producing. We could do something like this. Turn this back up. Oops. And then maybe we could use that G sharp. And we can kind of use this rhythm, this 1, 2, 3 rhythm here, right? And let's pull it back down here so it's in harmony. And let's keep using this. Make a chord. And then I'm gonna bring this back in. And it's that simple. So I'll play it 1 time through. So we have our bass line, a little mid section, or you could have chords here. And then we have our linger notes. And the point of the linger notes is to help us build the melody, just to make it sound a little bit more together full. And we have our top melody in our sections. All right, so let's play it. All right, that's gonna be it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.